The title of this presentation is The King of Burgers and the Queen of the Silver Camps. I've got 10 minutes to make that make sense for you. These are some forward-looking statements. My lawyer says I need these. I haven't read them. If you have trouble sleeping, give it a shot. These are on our slide deck. A lot to look forward to. There's been a lot of pain out there recently, obviously in the precious metal space. I've certainly felt it too, and many shareholders feel it. We just got cashed up. We've got the highest grade asset in the industry that isn't producing right now. 3 years ago, I stood up here. It was right before we got it going. We just acquired this asset. It was by Brian Lundine's invitation. No one had heard of us. No one had heard of Tonopah. Today, 3 out of 40 companies here are all clustered around this old mining boomtown that we're showing new life to. In 3 years since we put our first drill hole into this, really just to prove the hypothesis that the old-timers didn't stop mining because they ran out of gold and silver. They stopped mining due to some technical issues of the day and the Great Depression. Well, 3 years after our first drill hole, we've drilled out 100 million ounces of silver equivalent. This is the highest grade undeveloped project in the industry. It's just silver and gold, halfway between Las Vegas and Reno. The expansion potential before, no one really understood it. Today, we've got 100 million ounces. By the end of this, I'm going to show you a few things where, without many leaps in logic, easily to convey, we can more than double that without stepping out another inch. Now, this metallurgy here, the grade, we already stand out. The jurisdiction, we're on private land, 3-hour drive from Las Vegas with the highway cutting across us. But the metallurgy on this thing is also unlike any other high-grade story in the silver industry right now. It's because it's very straightforward. I've had a 7.5 million ton met test done on my property. We know it's cyanide soluble. We know it's standard milling. This is going to be a doré. We're not going to have to go through all the different steps to make it concentrate. This one slide, I could spend the entire presentation on it because if I'm in your situation right now, I want to look at how I'm going to make some money. What this shows here is every single large silver development and advanced resource exploration project in the industry right now. The first thing that'll stand out to you is that there's really not many. There's about 15 or 16 on here. Along the bottom, it's separated out by grade. Just like myself in high school, the silver industry is severely lacking in grade. You've got most of our competition, our peers, under 100 grams per ton or less. As you go out along the x-axis, you've really only got 3 high-grade stories in the industry with resources and getting pushed forward through de-risking. You've got Dolly Varden, you've got Vizsla, and ourselves. Now, the other, along the y-axis, shows our ounce in the ground multiple. We're higher grade than anyone. We're in arguably the best jurisdiction you could possibly be in. We've got cleaner metallurgy. We're trading at half the ounce in the ground multiple to our high-grade peers, maybe a third. Why is that? We put out a new resource in October. It's our second resource in 3 years. We've moved this project forward quicker and cheaper than anyone in the industry. We're in it for $30 million all in, and in about a month, we're going to be making our final option payment on this property to own 100%. Now, we put out our resource in October. For about the 6 months leading up to that, we commanded the highest ounce in the ground multiple in the industry. We were significantly higher than our other peers here. When we added our ounces, you do it in a bad market, these things go to be liquidity events. Intrinsic value has been completely decoupled from valuation in the marketplace. And really, high-grade projects or good quality projects in general aren't getting value in a market like this. But you know what it is? It's cash. Since we put out our resource, the number one comment, and analysts have all said that you need money, you need money. Well, unfortunately, we finally had to bite the bullet, and I don't like our valuation any much more than you guys do either. But we just completed, or are in the process of completing, the first bought deal the silver space has seen since July of last year. We've upsized it. We've got some pretty strong lead orders, and we've got a new largest shareholder that we'll be seeing very quickly. We're now cashed up. That Band-Aid has been ripped off and we're ready to go. And what you'll see is that we're trading, I don't need silver to run to 25 or 30 bucks. Just to get in line with our 2 other high-grade peers, we're looking at a 2 or 3x. There was a point 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, June of 2022, right as the Fed was starting the rate hike cycle. All of our high-grade ounces were trading for north of $2.50 an ounce. Today, you can buy the highest grade ounces in the world of any undeveloped project. They're in Nevada, better metallurgy, and we're trading at 40 cents. In a good market, which we haven't seen really since we started going, these same ounces, like Silvercrest, for example, when they were at our stage, were trading for $5 to $10 an ounce. That's the re-rate opportunity you have here. Now this shows the exact same thing, except it shows what our deposit looks like if we doubled the cutoff grade to 400. No one in the industry shows what their resource looks like at 400 because generally they don't tie together. Ours does. We go from 100 million ounces to 70 million ounces. The only difference is our average grade ratchets up to just under 800 grams per ton. Now, one thing we do that others don't is we present with dilution factored in. We do block diluted. So it's easily the highest grade out there. Now, as I said, this is a known district. It's known as the Queen of the Silver Camps. The king would have been the Comstock lode, but this and the Comstock are the reasons why, to this day, Nevada is known as the Silver State. As I said, we've had a 7.5 million ton met test done on our property already. That's what the old timers mined back in the old days, just using stamp mills. They only really had 30 good years, this district, and I'll show you why shortly. But from that 7.5 million tons, it produced 174 million ounces of silver and 1.8 million ounces of gold. What does that mean? It means it's high grade, and it means the metallurgy is pretty darn fantastic. This is the story of Tonopah, just on a bar chart. It was one of the most significant discoveries in Nevada mining history. One of the guys who did it about 10 years later became governor. A guy named Wyatt Earp was a deputy sheriff on our property, and he also ran a saloon back in the day, and people like Mark Twain and even Howard Hughes in the 1960s came through there, all trying to get new life on it. Now, really what happened was the discovery was made in 1900, hockey stick chart up. When by 1910, 1912, it was producing up to 12 million silver equivalent ounces per year. World War I happened. That's the first nail in the coffin. But the second nail in the coffin happened as the production moved to the east, to the west side of the district. The discovery was made on the east side as an east-west vein corridor. The old-timers started mining right from the surface. And all of that early production in 1900, 1910, 1915 was from the east side moving west. Well, when they got to the west side, which is right where our property starts, they got down to around 1,880 feet, and as they kept going deeper, the veins started expanding and expanding. It was 24 meters thick when they flooded out the mine. This was a big company back then. They realized there's a whole bunch more mine life left. They decided to take out a ton of debt. They sent away for some water pumps and some heavy-duty diesel generators to be made. What happened? Well, the Great Depression happened, metals prices tanked, and there was no more mining in Tonopah. The debt they took out to fund that sunk the company. We're the first group to get our hands on this land claim ever since. We figured that's not a bad place to point our first drill hole. It's supposed to be 24 meters thick. 90 years after production shut down, we drilled 30 meters of a kilogram per ton. Here's our resource. All that production from that Tonopah district I told you before, that was 7.5 million tons. In 3 years with the project, we've already drilled out 6 million tons. As I said, it presents block diluted grade. We've already factored this in. And it's standard conventional mechanized underground mining methods we use. We only model down to 1.5 meters. We're not interested in the narrow vein stuff. And these are all based off of first principles, as if you're going to build and operate this mine yourself starting from scratch. Now, this is something you guys haven't seen before. I only saw it a few days ago, but I told you I was going to explain some upside potential for you guys. The red represent the 100 million ounces. Those are the veins that made it into our resource. Now, that old mine I was telling you about, that's the northeastern portion. That's Victor. Since from there, where the last mining in the district took place, we've now drilled out 4 kilometers all along the same system. We've only drilled out, of that 4 kilometers, 2.5 kilometers actually made it in the resource. You see big gaps. Well, those purple veins there, those represent known vein extensions that we've yet to drill out at density. We can't include them in a resource just yet. This is easily conveyed. If we've got 100 million ounces in the red, I don't need this all to come out exactly as is, but certainly just if I draw a circle around the central portion to that northwestern step-out area, it's easy to see another 30 to 50% just there. Now, we're all doing this drilling from surface. It's tough, certainly around that Victor area. That vein is thick and it's high grade, but we have to work through 5 different levels of workings, and it's like playing slalom. It's very hard to drill from surface. We still haven't found the bottom of it yet. That's going to grow in 3Ds. Same with the central areas too. We're limited because, you know, the system starts at around 200 meters below surface, but we still haven't found the bottom. Our resource is only gold and silver. There's no base elements in there yet, which means we're still right in that sweet spot. Now, the upside potential is easily conveyed. You know, the step out area to the northwest is interesting. Another thing that I don't think anyone's seen before is it doesn't really come through on there, but there's a big bubble at the very northwestern portion. That's a porphyry we drilled into earlier last year. It was a deep, deep hole. We weren't looking for a porphyry, but we think that could be the engine. What you'll see is that all of the veins are falling inside towards that porphyry, and oftentimes the porphyries act as the boiler of the whole system. We've yet to really test it, but what we know is that without stepping out another inch along that, from that northwestern step-out area, this thing's big, it's high grade, it's easy to process. Oh, and because we're on private land in Nevada, the permitting in here isn't 3 to 6 years, it's 3 to 6 months, assuming we or whoever would want to operate this one day wants to go underground and move it forward. With that, I think that sums up the opportunity. We've been undervalued. We've been penalized because of cash. We have cash now. We're going to move this project forward. We've got further metallurgical studies underway. We've got some money to drill out. The closest vein we have to surface is also the vein that's the highest grade, and it's one of the thickest. And it also happens to be right where we're thinking of putting an exploration decline, which would have huge positive consequences for any PEA as we move that forward. But we've come a long way in 3 years. Give me a year or two, and we'll see where this ends up. Thank you.